Hello everyone, GenmaTheSamurai here, and today I'm actually going to be doing something a little bit different. I don't normally do game reviews, I normally do Let's Plays, but considering that I can't really Let's Play this game and I want to get attention to it, I'm actually going to review Azure Striker Gunvolt 2, which is a game that I got recently, and it is really fun. I had a lot of fun just playing through this game, and I felt that I would share my thoughts on it and tell you guys why you guys should go and buy it, because it is really great. Well, assuming you have a 3DS. If it were released on Steam, I would have Let's Played it, but that said, that's just how the cookie crumbles. I could have maybe tried to do a camera Let's Play, but regardless, here we are today. I'm going to be talking about the game, and you guys are going to be able to make a decision, and yeah, so let's get into this. So, one thing that I want to say off the bat, if you guys have not played the first game, you might be a little bit confused on the plot, because it is definitely picking up right where the first game kind of left off generally. There's a little bit of a time skip, but if you don't know what happened at the end, you're going to be confused about a few things. So, just letting you know, if you don't care about the plot because it's a Mega Man-ish game, I don't really blame you per se, but if you do care about the plot, just know that going in that you will want to remember, you know, on some level the plot of the first game going into this one. So, anyways though, this game was really fun. In fact, I think in a lot of ways I probably like it better than the first game, but I'll get into some of it in non-specifics because I don't want to spoil it for you guys who might want to go and play it. But I just want to say this right now, guys. I have 100% of the game on both characters. I have Copen up to level 99. I have Gunvolt in his level 80s. I had a lot of fun playing as Copen, who is his rival character from the first game that you now get to play as in his own separate storyline in this game, and it is really darn fun. Now, like the first couple missions, you are forced to play, but then it kind of branches and you kind of get your own characters. One thing I wasn't sure of how they were going to handle going into this game, because I wasn't sure if they were going to go with like the X series route, where the X series would, like, each character would have like the same stages, so they had to design the stages around like both characters. It turns out though that they actually have the stages specially designed for each character. Generally, there's a few stages that are designed for like both of them to kind of go through, but they do have their own uniquely designed stages that leads to them to kind of be designed in interesting ways. Mostly on Gunvolt's side in terms of stage design, though I will say in terms of like actual gameplay design, gosh, Copen is so fun. So I'll kind of talk about Copen first and kind of say my thoughts on him, because if you're playing this game, Gunvolt will deliver for you on the gameplay side more of the same. Gunvolt is pretty unchanged. I think he has a few new abilities. In terms of the bullet number, it's actually allocated to these rounds that you equip rather than it being to the gun. That is probably the most notable change I could really say as far as his actual mechanics go. As for Copen though, Copen is an incredibly unique character for a Mega Man style game. The closest comparison I could say is Axel, but he's very different from Axel, so let's talk about him for a bit. So Copen basically has the ability to air dash, like rocket himself all over the place. And basically he does this move where you can actually just like infinitely like wall jump, like even like from ceiling to floor, and you can just kind of rocket through corridors. Also, if you hear rain outside, it is raining, which is cool, also crazy. So just letting you guys know, if you hear rain in the background at all, that is why. Anyways, back on topic. So he can kind of like air dash and kind of rocket off of things, and it's really darn cool. You can also, your main method of attacking enemies though is you're going to want to like dash into them, which then locks onto the enemy, and you're going to want to hold down the shoot button, which will then like home his like shots into the target. Unlike in Gunvolt 1, he no longer really seems to use actual bullets, but he kind of shoots these like laser rounds, which was an interesting change, but I think it turns out pretty cool. And again, they kind of home in on the target when you are locked onto them. And so that's going to be your main method of attacking enemies. One thing that Copen also has that Gunvolt does not is that Copen gets to use boss abilities to attack enemies. A few of them are used in interesting ways, some of them not so much. A lot of them are used for very close quarters combat, which makes sense considering how close quarters the character in general kind of is, since you kind of have to dash into enemies to be able to do it. Which again is a very interesting playstyle considering you know, that he uses a ranged weapon. But I do think it like does speak for the character a little bit better because Copen is a lot more aggressive and angry. So that kind of fits into his character a lot better. Whereas, you know, Gunvolt is a lot more strategic and all that stuff, so it makes sense. Now, as for, again, dashing into enemies and doing all this stuff, the kudo system has also been revamped in this game. It also contains the original kudo system, so there's 3 settings. If you guys are unaware of what the kudo system is from the original game, I will go and explain that right now. The kudo system basically works as such. As you attack enemies, these points build up. Once you get over 1,000, you get J-pop music, and it's a cool thing, but it's also important to stage points, which then dictate your general score. Which, by the way, I also found to be a lot more forgiving this time around, because on my general first attempt, I don't think, unless I died and got, like, Anthem, I typically did not get any lower than A rank. Now, that might be just me, but that's something that I noticed myself, but I'm also a Mega Man veteran. So I found that kind of curious, because I know for a fact that, like, in older Mega Man games, I've gotten lower ranks, but this one I definitely, like, did not have to work super hard to get S rank. Now, S plus rank, you still have to work a bit, but as for S rank itself, wasn't that hard to get. So, especially with Copen, by the way. I actually mostly struggled with Gunvolt in terms of getting the higher ranks, which is curious, but I found it cool. But anyways, back onto the kudo system and how it's been revamped. So in the original game, if you got hit once or touched a checkpoint, you would lose your kudos. In this one, it's consistent, by the way, the checkpoint thing, so you never want to touch a checkpoint if you want to build up kudos. But the way it's been revamped is that there are now 3 settings. There's the original setting, and then there's one where if you get hit 3 times, you lose your kudos. You get less kudos than the original way, but if you get hit 3 times, then you lose it. And then there's one where, like, you keep it no matter how many hits you have, but you have, like, the lowest kudo growth. Now, I found while Copen was definitely, like, the easiest character for me to get through the game with, you know, by the time I learned how to play as him anyway, he definitely had the hardest time building kudos, at least for me. I think I've heard some people say otherwise. I had a really hard time building kudos with him, and that was especially challenging when one of the challenge missions, which, again, considering I'm 100% this game, one of them required you to get over 9,999 kudos. I actually didn't have a lot of trouble doing that with Gunvolt. It took me a lot of tries with Copen to get that, and so that one was very, very difficult to do. Overall, though, I think this game might be on the easier side than the first game, but in kind of a good way. I think it definitely fixed a lot of issues that the first game kind of had, and I will say one thing, though, that kind of made the J-pop a little bit unrewarding was the fact that I kind of never left the... I can't do no damage runs. I'm really bad at that. The stress would kill me. So I was grateful for the third mode, but I was also kind of disappointed how easily I got the J-pop because I did that mode. Because then eventually I kind of got sick of it, especially considering there was another thing. In the original game, each stage had their own separate song that you got. This one, it seems there's like 5, and which one you get is kind of random. And by the end of the game, doing the challenges and stuff, I knew all of them, and I was kind of sick of hearing them a little bit. Thankfully, for at least Copen, there is a thing you can equip to mute keep that from happening. I think there's something for Gunvolt as well, but you have to kind of equip that. That takes up a slot, and I think it should just be an option in the menu. So if there's a Gunvolt 3, you know, just consider that, Inticreates. I would actually very much appreciate that. I love the J-pop, just with how easy it was to get it now, I would have appreciated it. So, yeah, because I found the stage music to also be pretty good. It was actually reminiscent of the PlayStation Mega Mans this time around, because the Gunvolt 1 soundtrack reminded me more of the Zero games. This one was more reminiscent of the PlayStation Mega Mans, I felt, which was interesting. Particularly, I think it was one of the final stages that like had a very, very PlayStation Mega Man, you know, like sound to it, which was really cool, and I was not expecting that. So yeah, overall, I think the soundtrack was really, really good. I think, again, could have used more variety. I think some of it was because they had 2 different singers now for the J-pop, so they kind of had to like make 5 songs that each of them could sing, and yeah, I kind of would have preferred that they had their own separate ones, but maybe they didn't have the money for it, which, understandable. So, yeah. As far as the actual stage design, some of it I don't want to spoil, but I felt, again, on Gunvolt's side, he had the more interesting design stages, which I feel were very, very cool. Some of them were like, oh, now, I will say this, for people who probably would turn off the in-game dialogue, though, I had a blast with some of the in-game dialogue this time around. I don't know if they got like a new localization person, or if it's the same person that they rehired to do the Japanese voice mode version, but whoever did it this time, it sounded like they had fun with the cyber level. I won't say what happens there, but it was very entertaining to read that dialogue and the banter. It definitely gave the bosses a lot more personality. That one in particular, that boss had plenty of time to talk, and it was very fun. And yeah, considering you're about to rush over and kill him, it gave him some time to talk, and I appreciate that without interrupting gameplay too much. So yeah, I will say one thing though. I was kind of curious as to why like the game removed the shortcut for turning off the mid-game dialogue. I realized that was to make a shortcut to the specials, but I feel that like it's really easy to just kind of tap it anyway, but I mean, I guess mapping it to a button does make it easier. I think that like maybe there should have been an option to choose which thing should be set to X, because I liked that about the first game, was that I could just toggle the dialogue on and off depending on like what's going on, but if I just wanted to view it. Now that's a little bit of a nitpick, but it's just a thing that I feel it probably should have had. I think overall the game is definitely an improvement over the first game. It had a lot of great action. I had a blast playing Copen. I think he is my favorite to play as between the two. In terms of the story has a lot of twists and a lot of things I don't want to spoil. And some people... I like Inticreates style with it. I do. I like their Mega Man Zero games. I'm kind of iffy on their story for the ZX games, but I think they definitely are doing what they want with the Gunvolt, and they're kind of like trying to do what they can within the limitations of the kind of game they're trying to create, and I like it. They have some very interesting characters in there. Some of them are tropes, but they're enjoyable nonetheless, and yeah, some of it like went in places that like might be predictable for some. There were some twists I did not expect, even within the first part of this game, that I was really not expecting to happen, and I was kind of like, okay, that's actually pretty cool. But I won't say any more than that. The game itself is really darn cool, and if you guys have a 3DS, I cannot recommend the Striker Pack in particular enough. You get both the first game and the second game all on one cartridge, and it is really cool. You guys should totally get it. It is like I think it's standard price. I might be wrong on that. If I'm like wrong, I'll put like probably a price thing on here. It's pretty worth. You get like both games, and they're some of my favorite 3DS games right now because they're just fun. And I don't know when they're gonna make a Steam version of 2. I'm sure they will. If Inticreates watches this and they're curious, or they hear this, just know some people are interested in it because they don't have a 3DS. Not everyone does. I mean, like, I would be able to Let's Play it. Just saying. But that said, I know, business. So, either way though, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have a 3DS, go pick up this game. It is really sweet. I wish I could have Let's Played it, because I would have had some really great reactions for you guys. Sadly, I can only really recommend to you guys to go and get it. Maybe you can find a few Let's Plays. Hopefully there's some good ones out right now. I don't think I saw a lot, though. Most of them were of the Japanese version, it looked like, so I don't really know. Again, you need a 3DS capture to do it. 3DS captions are expensive. I can't afford that at all. I don't know how much longer the 3DS is going to be relevant, but as soon as I can Let's Play this game, I will totally do it, because I had fun. I had a lot of fun with it, and yeah, either way, I'll see you guys later, and have a very nice day, and yeah, I'll be off of my Let's Play hiatus pretty darn soon. You guys can look forward to a certain Zelda game when I come back, so I'll see you guys later. Alright, bye!